having the opportunity to work with HIV patients at Princess Marina. And you know who this is, so. What happened every morning is at 7:30, which is nice and early, but everybody was right on time, is that all the patients who were admitted in the previous 24 hours were presented. So the doctors who were going to take over would know who they are and a little bit about them. And also we discussed a little bit about each case. And here I am talking about one of the cases. Brand new building, totally air conditioned. The windows don't open. And it turns out, when I came in closer to see what it was, it's the health ministry. The Minister of Health hangs out here. And he's got a big office staff. And this is where all the decisions about health care are made, and the struggle in trying to fight the epidemic. One of the jobs that the doctors from the University of Pennsylvania had, this just happens to be me, is to teach the doctors in Botswana what's going on. It's one of the problems in a developing country like Botswana, and we take it for granted, but there's no mail system. There is learning through computers, computer transmissions of medical information, but there are no journals, and there's also no medical school like here. We can come to a conference, and you can have a conference on HIV, heart disease, and learn. But there's nothing like that in Botswana. So I was talking about problems with HIV and heart disease. It was well received. And this is just an announcement of one of the talks that I gave, and the reason I made a slide out of this is because here we never see it in this country. All doctors must make an honest effort to attend, so you got to go to class. This is a traditional house where people live in the rural areas, in the villages. It's a thatch roof house. You can't see it here, but there's a little hole in the top. In fact, in this house, there's even holes in the wall. The rain does not get through that. I guess it came in on a slant, but the rain doesn't come in through the roof. The reason there's a hole in the top is because this time of the year, it's our summer, but Botswana's in the southern hemisphere, so it's their winter. And it's in the desert, and in the morning, in the early morning, it can actually go below freezing. So there's obviously no central heating. What they do is they build a fire right in the house, and the smoke vents through the hole in the roof. The problem with that is asthma, because of the hazy atmosphere. If you take a deep breath, even someone like me, I've never had asthma, if I took a real deep breath, I start coughing. So one of the things that has to be addressed in the developing world is how, especially when it gets cold, is how to keep things up without causing asthma and all other lung problems. But there's also the other side of living in Botswana, and there are traffic jams there also. There was a stoplight, there were a few stoplights in the city, the capital city. There was a stoplight at the end of this road, and traffic was backed up. The drainage ditch here is because when it rains, it rains. I mean, it is monsoon, heavy rain. It may only last for 10 minutes, but it can flood if you don't have drainage ditches. The other thing to notice in this is that every house is surrounded by the wall. Even the traditional house is surrounded by a barbed wire fence. The walls are 8 feet high, and on top of the wall is an electrified fence. So that's interesting because there's very, very little crime in Botswana. In fact, not only is there very little crime, but there are no guns. Even the police don't have guns. So, but nevertheless, I don't understand why the walls are. You know, the city is new, There was nothing or very little there when the British pulled out over 30 years ago. So everything is built up over the last 30 years. And this apparently is built this way in the style of South Africa. In South Africa, where there is more crime, the houses are surrounded by walls and electrified fences. But if you get homesick and you're in Botswana, there's always this. And it's crowded, you know. I tried to go there for lunch and finally got in. But there is no Burger King, there is no McDonald's. The reason, there's a good reason. Botswana is a beef exporting country, and the beef is different. The cattle are free range. So not only is it inexpensive to get a good steak, but it tastes different. And it's also healthier, there's less fat. But Burger King and McDonald's want consistency, so their hamburger in Botswana would taste like the hamburger in New York, and they can't do that with local beef, so they wanted to actually import beef to a beef exporting country, so that was the end of that. But everybody's happy anyway. If you're really homesick, you can go look at the flag. This is the U.S. Embassy. And this is the main business center in Gaborone. Orange is the cell phone company. And notice it's just like the British influence on the road. It's left-sided driving. They're on the left side of the road here. And one of the big problems with HIV is orphans. With an HIV rate of 40% in the reproducing age group, you can imagine that some children just don't have parents, or if they have parents, they're both, or just one surviving parent is too sick to care for them. So orphans are a problem, but not as big a problem as it might be in a country such as this, because in a tribal society, the extended families are tremendous. So if both parents die, there's always an uncle, an aunt, a cousin. If nobody, the tribal chief will find a place for the orphan to stay and live. But it doesn't, some kids fall through the cracks. So there are orphanages. Not many. The orphanages, by the way, are not state supported. The orphanages are supported by different private companies who donate money to the orphanages. The euphemism is Children's Village. And here's the yard that the kids play in. Now, these people with these young people with the blue shirts are high school students from South Africa. We were only 20 miles from the border with South Africa. So these are high school students who from South Africa who came in to play with the kids, to entertain them on a Saturday afternoon. And the children were very appreciative of this. These young fellows are orphans in Botswana, some of the older kids, and they play a concert on these percussion instruments. And it was quite an interesting sound that they produced, and I'm sorry I didn't record the sound, but it was quite enjoyable, and the people came around and loved it. So there are things in Botswana